How yeah, I work was cancelled today because we got hit with a hurricane out of the blue, and the building was deemed unsafe, so I got a day off, which is the first kind of wintry day since the Rona lockdown. It's really quite intense, storm wise, but I feel like I'm mitching off school, so it feels good. A very nice chap bumped into him this morning, and just outside Sligo town, called David. There's a shout out to him, and he said some lovely things to me, and I was like, wow, it's just nice to hear that on a Sunday morning. But he follows the video, so how are you, David? And it was just lovely to hear that in the morning. I get taken aback when people say things like that, but here that's just it's nice to hear. And I mean, yeah, we should be supporting each other at times like this because isn't that what the tribe has to do? Now, I was thinking yesterday, a lot of my Hollywood is dying. It's dead, really. And I had some friends I had coffee with yesterday, and they said to me, "What happened to Hollywood?" Well, Hollywood's gone. It's changed. It's gone into comic books and gaming. Not just video gaming, but like board gaming and all kinds of things like that, and comic books. And that's why the likes of Marvel and DC kind of like moved in on Hollywood, almost like to get it like a fire sale. And that's the end of Hollywood. But there's a more significant thing to that. About 10 years ago, I wrote a blog page. I'll see if I can dig it up. That wasn't 10 years ago, it was about 7 or 8 years ago. And it was entitled basically, I forget what it was called, but the idea I put forward was that Crowley's Aeon of Horus had ended prematurely. And it had ended prematurely for two reasons. The Crowley obviously didn't expect the growth of the internet and social media, so that sped it up, and also the resurgence of paganism, European paganism. So those two things together, kind of like it's the Aeon of Horus Crowleyanity was really an alternative to Christianity, and unlike Satanism, when Christianity fell, in terms of it having a great impact upon people, well, Thelema and the Crowleyanity, as he jokingly called it, came to an end as well prematurely. It was supposed to last 1,000 years, but we're in a very strange cycles now. Any astrologer friend I have is telling me that the age of celebrity is over, and that's indicated by lots of things. The Rona lockdown being one of them. That they're just not getting out there anymore. And you saw that video where they did at the beginning of it, where they did John Lennon's the cringy thing of John Lennon's Imagine, and when they did that, it was just awful. It's just that you saw them for what they were. They had lost their charisma, and that was the whole thing of the Aeon of Horus. That every man of the book of the law had had oh, I forget the course, but it's the whole thing, the unfolding of the company of heaven. Every man and woman is a star, and the whole had the manifestation of Nuit, the unfolding of the company of heaven. Every man and woman is a star. The book of the law begins like that, and the the stars on Nuit's body over the River Nile, representing the celebrities, the stars, in the spotlight, in the golden glow, and that was Crowley was on. He was a big movie fan, and he was there to see the growth of Hollywood from the classic sort of silent era, Cecil B. DeMille, right through to when he died. Hollywood was massive, and he had lived to see his prediction come true, but it's over now. And all those celebrities, they're done. They're done for. People aren't really caring about them anymore. To the point where I saw some celebrity, I don't even know who they really are, and their boyfriend having a photo up of them losing a baby in the hospital, and it's really sick. It's like it's narcissism in the extreme. And she's just pictures of her, just posed photographs of the two of them crying over their lost baby, and she has her makeup done and everything, and they're like kind of like they're. It's just our baby is dead. Let's sell it to the media. That's exactly what happened, and it was quite shocking actually. I've never seen. We've actually reached a stage now where a woman has a miscarriage and a celebrity has a miscarriage, and she has to like call in her beautician or her hairstylist to do her up so she can pose in photographs of her having lost her baby with her man. I mean, yeah, that's where we are today, and that's part of the whole thing of the Aeon of Horus has come to an end. That they're desperate for anything, and this is with the what that means is we don't have celebrities anymore, but we won't have celebrities anymore who are famous for just being celebrities. We will have people who will be respected or celebrated for their ability to sing or act and things like that. But the days of like being a celebrity, just being amazing, and you see things like Jedward, they're the post-mortal spasm of that world. And so ironically enough is Sinead O'Connor. Sinead O'Connor the other day saying that she hopes Trump dies of the Rona, and she's been cursed ever since she tore up the picture of the Pope on Saturday Night Live. She's been a cursed individual, and I don't know who put her up to that or what it was, but that seemed to me like it was a black mass, that performance, where she said, "We will triumph over evil," and she turns the picture, and then she blows out the candles to close the ritual on the stage, and the whole thing is like shocking, and it's cringy as well, but people are saying, "Oh, she stood up against the Catholic Church," and when that first happened, I burst out laughing watching it because I was watching it when it was going on. I remember like it was yesterday, it was so weird, but then I was like, "Okay, there's something really creepy going on here," and the spectacular silence of the audience after she did that, they would have known that something had entered into that space, some powerful entity, and the temperature of the studio would have dropped a few degrees. And she's had that entity living in her ever since, and that's why she changes her identity. She's a Rastafarian one minute, she's a Muslim the next, she's a Catholic priest the next. She's desperately trying to escape the entity that's been following her ever since those days. And she's also by her own admission, a cannabis junkie, and she's even admitted that she's gone into rehab for it. And this is the whole thing. That's also leads to possession and stuff like that because the psychic firewall is broken down, and it's an awful mess. It's a disaster. And the thing is that like she could be saved, not on the Christian sense, but she could have her soul restored if she actually went on a proper pagan path and stopped trying to pour Abrahamic these Abrahamic invasions into her Celtic soul. That's as ironic as all the things she's done: Rastafarian, Catholic priest, uh, Muslim, and so on. She's never ever looked at paganism because that's the answer, and so it's just like the whole thing's a fucking mess, but that was her her whole thing. That's part of the collapse. Her the whole thing. She never learns, and like this is why she can't get in with the manager. She's not going to get any U.S. travel visas or to perform there after wishing that Trump was dead and this kind of thing. She's no sense, none whatsoever. And again, that's the impulsiveness of that. And you see the celebrity thing falling apart all over. And if a celebrity tries to make an intelligent statement, whether they're Ian Brown or Jim Core or Van Morrison or Noel Gallagher, they immediately get attacked. And the only attack rebuttal they can get is by some PhD posting a picture of a cat with a tinfoil hat underneath it. And its ability now that will be the deal breaker going forward. It'll be ability and creativity. And another thing too is that yesterday was dead. There was nobody around Sligo, and there was nobody around the northern half of the country because the rates of infection had gone up in Northern Ireland, in Ulster, and so everyone in this half of the country are all like cowering cowering like pussies. There's so many men are cowards these days. It's not funny, but cowering in terror at home. And I was talking to another fella yesterday, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, so many people are afraid to travel," and it's just like, okay. When I first started making these videos, I said, there's something different happening here. This is a deep spiritual crisis," and I declared that that COVID-19 was a god, and it was COVID-19 was the most powerful god in the universe, and has been since the lockdown. They're all living in fear of it. It's actually replaced Jehovah, and if we want to talk about chaos gods, it even replaced Cthulhu. In that sense, it is the prima god of the age, and people are now absolute because of the propaganda. They take it literally. So there's people who think that like at 10 p.m. literally COVID-19 is outside the pub waiting to get them. It's stalking them. It's like it's a predator, and it's not just a virus that you can randomly pick up. See, this is when they put in that 10 o'clock curfew. What they're really saying is it'll get you at 10:01. You know what I'm saying? So people won't go out at all. And the people are so stupid, the normies and the NPCs, that they'll actually think, oh, I better not go out because if I'm a minute late out of the pub, the coronavirus, like it's stalking them, will get me, you know. And the same thing, we can't have more. We have 7 people. We have 6 people, we're okay, but the coronavirus will come kill us if we have 7. You know, this is literally what they're thinking now. I'm talking about the normies, not us. They're actually thinking that the virus has gone from being this kind of omnipotent presence that was to be avoided if you could. It's now become this thing that's now coming after you. They've made the virus predatory. It's not just floating around in the air waiting for you to suck it in with a breath. It's actually coming for you. It's looking for you. And it'll get you at 1 minute after 10 p.m. when the pub is closed. There will be 6 people over or anything like that. And the normies are actually believing that. So now they put them into a new state of gaslighting where they now feel that they're being preyed upon by the fucking virus. It's just mental. But that's what they're like. This is how they become. And, you know, the numbers being announced every day in the media, oh, this amount of infections, this amount of dead. This is the same. You see that in George Orwell. On the Oceania front, you know, and they named the heroes who died. And they had this gobshite on the RTE side showing his father's service medals from the... Oh, it was one of those ridiculous things you've ever seen. I survived, and he's holding up military medals. My dad gave me those medals saying, you survived this. You just couldn't make this... You'd face him... A big pussy, big fucking pussy. And we're supposed to, like, you know, he's waited all his life to get that piece of attention. There's a very, very funny Irish film called Intermission with Colin Farrell and Cillian Murphy about 15 years ago. It's an excellent kind of, like, comedy drama film set in West Dublin. And there's a scene in it where the mother and the daughter have survived a bus crash. And there's a knock on the door saying the guy from the TV news wants to talk to you. They both look at each other and go, and they run out the front door. Well, that's what that was like. These types are waiting all their lives to get on TV and have attention paid to them. And that's what this fellow was doing with his medals on the RTE website. Oh, he wanted to be famous for something, and this was it. And who takes photographs of yourself with the respirator thing on? Who does that? Who does that? Oh, you know, they're saints now. You know, like, by the suffering of Saint Martin and Saint David. Oh, by the scabs of Saint Winifred and the paralyzed leg of Saint Augustine. You know, that kind of thing. Now there's a new thing. You see, it's given all those crazy Catholic types. The ones, you know, you see, I saw John Waters talking the other day, and he said he doesn't hate Catholicism. No, I don't hate Catholics. I don't even hate Catholicism. I despise the Vatican. Okay, that's the thing, John. And but in terms of, like, I see within folk Catholicism, or the kind of Catholicism they have in South America and Southern Europe, a way of a spiritual path that can be good for our people, that doesn't, that doesn't keep them in bondage to a foreign dictator in Rome. And that's what I'm. That's my thing. But the thing is that, like, I mean, some of as a pagan, one of the most spiritual experiences I've had in recent years was visiting Saint Winifred's Well in Flintshire in Wales. Absolutely beautiful place. I was filled with kind of a wonderful feeling of spirituality in me. Now the well probably went back to pagan times. In fact, not most of them do. What didn't matter. I was just deeply moved by the experience. I can go to a cathedral and feel it. And some, but like Notre Dame was built on a pagan temple anyway. But uh, it's not that. It's the you see, like, the Irish didn't make very good Catholics. They really didn't, because they didn't. Catholicism was never in Ireland about spirituality. It was about OCD, passing a church, blessing yourself, saying your 10 Hail Marys. It's all OCD. It's all repetition, and that had all fallen. It's all repetition. You have to go to the mass, do what the priest, and all that kind of thing. And now all that, if you look, all the things that people are complaining about the Irish are doing with the Rona, that was all being done. That's the whole Catholic thing back. Oh, better do what the priest says. Oh, better do what the HSE does. Oh, the bishops. What's the bishop's latest on this? Oh, what's the minister's health latest on this? Oh, bless yourself. Wash yourself 3 times a day. This all this shite, right? That had been taken away from them by the secularization of Ireland, and it's been given back to them. But it's not religion. It's not spirituality. It's OCD. It's habitual learned process. Very different thing altogether. And that's why we said the Irish never made good Catholics, and because they never made no, well, no, the Catholic thing was never good for the Irish or any religion, because it didn't cater to a spiritual dimension within people. It catered to an OCD, a habitual, repetitive ritualization of things, which is a completely different thing. That's just a way of grounding yourself in this reality, to say to yourself, this is what I am. Well, another friend of mine I was talking to yesterday was saying to me that she saw something about it was a program or something, or an interview about a young guy who said he'd never ever been happier. An Irish fellow now, never ever been happier since the Rona thing came along. He's completely contented, and he said the reason why is he knows what to do now. He knows when to put on the mask. He knows the signs on the floor telling him to stand here. There's arrows on the ground telling him to move there and go that direction. And he's happy because he's now found this kind of, like, you see, it's almost like these people are slightly on the autistic scale, and they need that, and they need that kind of repetitive security, and you see it all the way up to the data modeling, this awful data modeling that they do to predict the virus movement. They're almost like autistic as well. Is there any difference at the end of the day between an autistic fella who freaks out because he didn't get the train number when it went through the village? He had all the train numbers in his book, and the one train he was missing, he didn't get the number, and it affected him for weeks afterwards. And a global warming head who wants the latest thing on temperature rises and the latest data modeling. There's a kind of like a pathological autism connected to all this stuff that kind of runs through the seam. And it goes all the way from scientists using data modeling all the way down to, like that guy saying he's happy now because he knows exactly what he has to do, what square to stand on when he's waiting to post his letters at the post office, what arrow on the floor to follow. And that shows that a lot of human beings don't actually teach themselves anything. They learn by watching other people. They learn by watching another person. And yeah, it's mad. It's just mad. And so being like, I can always remember when I was a kid saying, "Oh, Mr. McCarthy down the road, he's very religious. Why? He goes to mass every day." And yet it turned out that he was battering his wife up. He was going to mass every day, not because he was very religious. was going to mass every day because it was habitual forming. It was a habit. It was an OCD thing. And that's what the Irish never ever learned. The Irish never learned that about themselves as a people that are so called religious world. Sending all these fucking priests off around the world who wouldn't. That's another thing. Like I'm off. I since I graduated from the missionary, I'm off now to minister to the poor black babies in Africa. They take care of the black people in Africa. And meanwhile, he wouldn't give a fuck about the Irish people down the road that needed the same. Because it was all about converting them. It was nothing to do with that. Sure, they've already been converted, so why should I help them? That was really what all these Catholic missions, all that shit. All that was to like drain money out of Ireland to send it so priests could have like sex holidays in Nigeria and places like that. And they didn't give a fuck about the Irish people anymore because they'd already been conquered by Rome. So now it's time to go to Africa and conquer those poor fuckers down there. And that's what that was really all about, this whole thing of like these African missions and so on, whether they were Catholic or Protestant. Yeah, and like we never. I'm telling you, I mean, I know, if anyone I know who was Catholic or Protestant in Ireland, who was genuinely spiritual now, genuinely took comfort in their faith. It wasn't because they were regular mass goers. It was because they had communicated a connection between their own consciousness, their soul, their psyche, whatever you want to call it, and the Jesus Christ archetype. And that's completely fine. I mean, I wouldn't have any problem with that. Like even as a pagan, because if you look at technically, if you take the detachment from monotheism and Abrahamic religions out of chaos paganism, it's perfectly rational that a person would have a kind of a connection to a Godhead like Jesus Christ. And it's a very appealing thing, what we're told about, like preaching love and peace and understanding and forgiveness. These are things that appeal to human decency. And hence that's the way, so I totally get all that. But the ones, that the majority of Irish, like I can remember like one time as a bus on a kid, hearing two Irish middle-aged men talking about some aspect of Catholicism that was being debated by the bishops, and they were giving me Latin terms, and I was like, what the hell are you interested in that for? And it was the same thing. It was like politics. It was like sport. It had nothing to do with a sense of spiritual transcendence, a spiritual, sense of that, the attenuation of the nervous system in connection with the environment and those around you, in a sense of like cohesive charisma. There was nothing like that. It was purely just like OCD and following the bishop's orders. But we're here again, it's the Rona. See, the Rona is God. I mean, if you ask the majority of Irish people today, the number one God on this planet today is not Jehovah, Allah, or Yahweh, or Krishna, or, Buddha. It's the COVID-19 virus. And it's transformed from an omnipotent God to a predatory God that's now stalking them to kill them. And that's what has everyone neurotic at the moment. You see, they'll always take it to the next level. They always give it to the next level. It's like, well, you talk COVID-19, the floating and omnipotent. It's like, Jaws film. It's like something like that. Freddy Krueger. What was that film where the guy was electrocuted in his electric chair? They electrocuted and killed him, and now he's back, and he's angrier than ever. Well, it was like that, the COVID-19 thing. It's like they branded like the horror movies of the past, like Nightmare on Elm Street 12, and, that kind of Halloween 7, that kind of thing. It's like COVID omnipotent. It floats in the air. Are you wearing your mask? Are you washing your hands? Everywhere you go, COVID is there. That's that movie. That movie's now over, and now we have COVID-19, the Predator. And it's like he waits in the shadows. COVID-19. It's 10:01 p.m. Judy comes out of the pub in Weston-super-Mare in England. She turns the corner. Doot, 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 doot. COVID gets her. And it's like that kind of thing. The Smith family were having a nice dinner at home. And there was 6 of them. And little did they know that COVID was looking in the window. Then Ellen said, you know, I have loads of ice cream left over. I'll just tell Frank next door if he wants some of the ice cream, he can knock on the door and I'll come over and give it to him. She made the mistake of calling Frank. COVID heard Frank's footsteps go from 6 to the front door, go from 6 to... You know, in fucking ICU, no one can hear you scream. And that's what it's like now. It's like they're gone. It's a new movie. The movie is now COVID the Predator, where it was COVID the hang arounder, and then they'll come up with another thing again. It'll be COVID the Indestructible. You know, they thought like when they killed. Remember like the Dracula films with Christopher Lee. They'd always kill him, but there'd be like some shit like would always get his ashes and pour blood on him and bring him back to life. They thought the second wave had ended. But it was never dead. How can you kill that which can never die? COVID-3. He's back. And this time he's serious. You know, like that fucking... That's literally how they've been selling it. That's literally how they've been selling it. Second wave is, you know, all the whole shite. And they'll say, you know, new thing is like, if you, you know, COVID now understands interpretive dance, you know, or COVID is now specifically going after people who like the Bee Gees. You know, that's literally how stupid it's getting. And the stupid fucks are still falling for it. They're still falling for it. And it's like, you know, I thought I was just being sarcastic there last week when I said, oh, the virus, they think they could come out of the pub at 10 after 1 after 10, and it's going to get them. And that's exactly how they think. That's exactly how the normies are. It's now possible in this area to get a taxi after 7 p.m. Why? Because the taxi men are all terrified they're going to get the Rona, and drunks will get into their car not wearing their mask and give them the... They're literally... You see, it's like like John Waters said, you see your neighbour as a bag of diseases. But it's gone worse than that now. Your neighbour is now throwing COVIDs at you. You know, those Bruce Lee stars that he throws at his Kung Fu movies, the stars? They're no COVID stars. Showing them, man. Defending yourself from the COVID stars. You couldn't make this shit up if you tried. But they're using all the pop culture tropes. All the pop culture tropes to keep this thing going. That's you know, it's just amazing. It's like, but like I said, the greatest education we'll ever get, because you're discovering now who are the people you want to have around you in your life going forward, and they're certainly not the ones who lived in absolute terror of this virus, a pandemic. Yeah, the virus is real, but the pandemic wasn't, and. The ones who would be like snitched in it. We know the greatest education you'll ever get. And I said to that chap this morning, you know, you see the videos on how to wake up properly, the one I made. You saw that chap this morning, this morning. I said to him, isn't it great that you learn all these new things? It's like, and he even said, yeah, it's like being a kid again. And that's how you should take all this stuff. Like, when I'm talking here about the COVID, you should take that as like, wow, that's like... That's a fun way to... That's a sardonic but comical way to look at it and so on, you know. And that's literally what we're dealing with. It's now... I'm surprised we don't have COVID songs in the charts, you know. But if we still had pop charts, we probably would. But now you're going to see... Like I did... Another friend of mine... I've got loads of friends. Yesterday, I was talking to them. Said that my review of the movie Hereditary, I'll put the link directly underneath here, that I did last year. The last 10 minutes of that review of that movie, I'm basically again predicting the pandemic, the corona pandemic, in the context of that film about being compartmentalizations inside houses locked up and the worship of death. And so it's been coming down the road a long time, and they're using all the pop culture tropes to terrorize us. It'll be interesting to see where they take it next. But the most important thing is that don't let it fuck you up. Observe, but don't let it mess your mind up. Remember, what we're getting here are skill sets and toolkits in order to prosper in the future going forward. Take care, love you, son.